Hey campers, my name's Zoe and I am a college student, and today I will be telling you what the process is to design costumes for a show. So first we have to know, are we designing the costume for a TV show, something with a camera, right? TV show or a movie? Or are we designing this costume for a stage, right? Are these people going to be on stage acting this out live, or are they going to be on the TV? So if there's a camera involved, so like a TV show or a movie, then usually we can put small details into the clothing, right? Because I mean, right now I'm wearing this dress and you can see it has like some flowers and stuff on it, right? But if I were on stage, you probably wouldn't be able to see that, especially if you were sitting like in the back row or even in the middle. So what it's best to do when you're doing stuff for the stage, you make everything big. So like these flowers, if you really just wanted these flowers, for some reason, maybe they were a special part in the show that they meant something, then you would have to make them really big. Maybe have one just like really big on the chest, or a couple. But it would be so that the audience members could see it. So that's one thing that you have to keep in mind when you're designing for a show. The other is you have to do a script analysis. So a script is basically just, you have a story, right? And you read what the story is, and you have the characters. I'm sure you guys know what a script is. But basically, you have that script and you say, okay, I'm going to analyze this character. So what does this character do that I'm trying to put a costume on for? Let's say we're analyzing Little Red Riding Hood. So Little Red Riding Hood, it's in the name, right? She'd probably have like a cloak with like a little red hood. It'd be a red cloak. That's the easy part, right? But what else? What else do we know about Little Red Riding Hood? She goes to Grandma's house. She's in the woods. Something we may not know, we have to do some research, is Little Red Riding Hood is a French story, and it's set a long time ago, maybe in the 1600s or 1700s. And we would have to do research about that. And then, right, so we do research and we say, oh, okay, well, this is what people in France in the 1700s wore. This is kind of the idea that you get. And so you think, okay, Little Red Riding Hood, she's a little girl. So what do little girls in 1700s France wear? Okay, so probably a dress. She's probably wearing a dress. We're not going to put her in pants, right? Let's think about what would you put Little Red Riding Hood in? What would you dress her as? How would you dress her? Let's think about this. What colors? We got to figure out, what colors are you going to put Little Red Riding Hood in? You have the dress, you have the shoes, or is she wearing shoes? You have the cape. So let's think about this. So the cape, I would put her in a red cape with a little hood. And then I would put her in a dress. And then the colors of that dress, I would put her probably mostly in white. Because each color, when you're costuming somebody, has associations about it, right? Like, we think about pink as being a girl's color, blue as a boy's color, or white is maybe a color where there's like a purity, like it's pure, or black is kind of like brooding, and maybe that's like what you dress the villain in. But color is a very, very important thing when you're dressing somebody. And also you have to remember about the history. So historically, even though purple could be considered a little girl's color now, I really like purple, but I wouldn't dress Little Red Riding Hood in purple. And the reason why is, once again, the historical context. So a long time ago, the dye that makes purple was really, really hard to come by and really, really expensive. So Little Red Riding Hood, who's just visiting her grandma, she's not royalty, right? She's just a little girl. Maybe her mom works as making bread or something. Maybe that's why she has the little cakes that she has in her basket. But they're poor, probably. They're probably middle class working family. So you wouldn't put Little Red Riding Hood in purple. And you probably wouldn't put Little Red Riding Hood in black either, right? Because that's normally what you think of, like a brooding villains type of color, or somebody who's very tough, not necessarily a little girl. So that's very important, it's the color. Next, you have to think about then you have to draw it. So that's a very fun part. When you finally have all this stuff in your head, and you've done some research, you say, okay, I know what little girls in the 1600s in France wore, or the 1700s. I know what color her cape should be. It should be red, right? I know that she's wearing a dress. Is she wearing anything under that dress? What did they wear underneath their dresses? Did they wear pantaloons? Is she wearing boots? Once again, that's all the history. You have to kind of figure that out. So after that, you go and you draw it. You draw the picture. You draw Little Red Riding Hood. And once you have drawn Little Red Riding Hood, you take it and then you can make a costume. And so that is basically the whole process of what you need to do in order to design a costume. Now, also, if you're doing this in a show, you're probably going to have to ask somebody else and say, well, hey, what do you think about this drawing of Little Red Riding Hood that I did? Does this go with how you're seeing everything? You're going to have to talk to other people. That's a really important part in any type of theater, is talking to your coworkers. You have to make sure that everybody is happy, or maybe they have to go and buy this certain red color that you're suggesting because maybe they don't have that exact red color. And another thing when you're costuming people is there are different types of red, right? There is dark red, there is bright red or light red, and even those reds that are marketed as the same red, it's not. And on stage, when the light is really bright on that character, you can see that the reds are different. And it's a very small thing, and you have to be you have to notice something like that, but it is something that you have to be careful about. My professor was telling us about different types of black. Something could be labeled the same black, and it could even be from the same brand and the same store and the same everything, but because of how those shirts were made, if you have a white shirt, right, they have to dye the color into the shirt to make it black. And so if you do, let's say, 500 shirts for a big store, you do 500 shirts and you dye those shirts all. So all of those 500 shirts, because they were in this big vat of water, this dyed water, those 500 shirts will all come out the same color black, right? But they can only do so many shirts. And so then they dump out all that water and then they do it again. But it's not, they can't get the exact same amount of dye. And sometimes especially if you're tight on a budget and you don't have a lot of money to spend, you have to go to the cheaper places, right? So let's say we costume Little Red Riding Hood, and so we want to get this fabric, and let's say you have this really nice fabric for her dress. You're just in love with it. But so someone has to give you money to buy all of the fabrics. You can go and sew this dress for Little Red Riding Hood. Well, guess what? They're only going to give you $10. And you're like, but 1 foot of this fabric that I need is $10. What am I gonna do? I don't have enough money now. So then you have to go back and you have to figure out, okay, well, we're gonna have to change the fabric. We're gonna have to use this cheaper fabric because I only have $10 to spend on these other fabrics. So I hope you liked my my lecture, my mini lecture as we're gonna call it. Maybe you can do some drawings of your own with Little Red Riding Hood, or yeah. Anyway, have fun. Bye.